Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Josh YouTube channel. Long time no see on this channel, but we are back to talk about everything football related. Obviously, it's the international break, and generally, he cares about the international break. Like, sorry, Nathan, I couldn't really care about Wales playing bloody whoever Wales. I think Wales are playing. That's how much I bloody give a damn. I'd say, are they playing? Belarus. Yeah, who cares about Wales and Belarus? So me and George are going to be talking about everything that's kind of happened over the past couple of days in football. And Reece is meant to be here, but Reece isn't here. Typical Reece. He's either late or he's not coming. So yeah, but me and George will keep everything entertained. So hello, Yelly Boy. Thank you very much for coming in, and hello, Jade. Thank you very much. It's good to be back. It's good to be back talking football. So hopefully Reece just joined us, but if not, don't worry. Me and George are that good, and we can talk for about 4 hours non-stop about football. George, obviously you're here. How's your week been? How are you feeling?
Yeah, very busy as usual in life. Obviously, it's been a nice respite somewhat to be away from Manchester United again. It used to be that you would sort of resent and never wanted the international breaks to occur because they disrupted the real, what for me anyway would be the most important thing, which is club football. But really, they've provided a nice respite from from some absolutely tragic, terrible circumstances at Manchester United, which, as I'm sure we'll delve into, the board have neglected to take any action to. So they're clearly happy with the current situation in terms of results, and with the progression on the project that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is having.
At least Ole can't make. He did actually, because he gave the players a week off and flew away to Norway, and I think that's quite a stupid decision given where Man United are at the moment. So, and our Scottish maniac has arrived. Hello, Reece.
Hello.
I thought you weren't coming. I thought you ditched us, but now you're here.
No, I was finishing a stream with Doug. Funnily enough.
Oh God! You look at you up to your head, and see Reece is popular. As Reece says, the man just doesn't follow him; he follows it. So,
I get around for work, don't I?
I was told particularly to say this before. I was told to say this before we dive into all the topics, that Ivan Glazer went to an American college. To give a motivational speech, and got his facts wrong when he said Ronaldo joined Manchester United when he was 16, instead when in fact he joined when he was 18. To show that the Glazers generally don't have a single clue what's happening. They probably don't even know what the result was at the weekend against Manchester City. So, George, if you have to sum up Ivan Glazer in one word, what word are you going to use?
Rhymes with runt. It starts with a C. Ultimately, yeah. Obviously, I saw the clip as well, so just to make sure that it wasn't, because in these sort of things with this, sometimes those sort of words can be twisted, or it might not necessarily be true. But also, I have actually seen the original video, which admittedly was sort of filmed almost in a wind tunnel, so you could barely discern some of it. But you could definitely tell that he did say that. Obviously, Cristiano Ronaldo joined us when he was 16, so yeah, totally out of touch, totally incorrect. Ultimately, it's not. Obviously, you can sort of play to sort of devil's advocate and say that you wouldn't necessarily doesn't necessarily have to know that, and obviously there might be other United fans who wouldn't know that. But it's more the case of if you're supposed to be a professional, a leader, you're supposed to know that sort of information about the club and knowledge, especially when you're giving a presentation or a speech, because otherwise you look like a complete cretin, and that's ultimately what he came across as. So yeah, it's no surprise to me, and unfortunately, there's no sign of, despite the protests obviously last season, there's still no sign of them selling up. And as I said at the time, I think they're going to be here until until they no longer are alive, shall we say?
Hello, Nathan. Yes, Nathan Curdy is going to the Wales and Belarus game. I hope you lose, because LOL. Doug, good evening, Doug. Reece, hi, Petch. Nice to see you again. Yes, that nice talk to you. Anyway, so let's
I'm not getting into that. That was an embarrassing moment from the last stream I was on. I was eating an apple, and I literally went to respond to what I was asked, and all you heard was like the loudest screeching voice like I've ever produced. It was like that voice moment. You're like, just fuck off.
So let's get started. So we're going to start off. We're basically going to talk about. Also, there's been quite a few managerial changes in the Premier League. Unfortunately for George, one of the guys he despises the most. It's not one of them, but we will come all to that. So we're going to start off with probably the most surprising one, which is Steven Gerrard going to Aston Villa. Oh, okay, we have an interesting guest with us.
All right.
Hello.
I can barely hear you, but it's probably worth it. All I'll say is, yeah, it's going to be a while before we're in yet, but hope you guys have a good one anyway.
Good luck, guys. Come on, Wales.
Thank you very much. All right, there we go. There was an interesting. Thank you very much, Nathan and Paul for saying hello. Anyway, so the most surprising sacking / managerial appointment was Dean Smith getting sacked out from Aston Villa. Aston Villa have lost their last 5 games in the Premier League. Their last win coming conveniently at Old Trafford. And obviously Steven Gerrard leaving Rangers to join Manchester, to join Aston Villa. 4.5 million compensation fee for Rangers, if I'm not mistaken. So, Reece, I'm going to start off with you as the Rangers fan. Obviously, there's I've seen a lot of mixed reports, but a lot of mixed feelings between Rangers fans. Some say, yes, this was a hard job for him to turn down. He's obviously going to take over Liverpool at some point. This is what he experienced in need. But with a semi-final against Hibs coming up, a massive European game with Sparta Prague and top of the league by, I think it was only a point, the timing of it really stinks. And after what he said a few weeks ago about loyalty and being sticking to his contract, it doesn't look good on Steven Gerrard, does it, for the timing and everything he said?
I think so. I think that level of loyalty and questioning will be a factor. But I've been on a few streams about it lately, and I think it was the right time to move on. I just think it was the wrong way of going about it, and I think that's something that in his next job he really does need to think about it. How he handles the situation more. I think the media got the best of him there, and he's reacted poorly. But he could have had more trophies as well. But I think he's made the decision to move. And we'll see how it goes. But Rangers fans won't be happy about it. But we just have to move on the right way. And then the next guy, we just go for it. That's all I can really say. In all fairness about the situation, it could have been handled differently, but he did have to move on. But the fans will be annoyed for a little while, and then they'll just move on.
Do you understand, obviously, we all Steven Gerrard's going to take over Liverpool at some point. I think it's very clear that he'll.
Yeah, I think he will down the line. Yeah, down the line he will.
So do you think that this was just too hard for him to turn out? Because that Aston Villa squad has got good. The board will back him. Do you think it was just? You understand why? Obviously, going to understand the Rangers' point of view, but at the end of the day, for Steven Gerrard, it was just too hard not to take that opportunity because it wasn't going to be around forever.
I think if a position like that came around, you would have to go for it. So yeah, I do agree. With that one.
Now, George, with you obviously, I don't think you're a Rangers supporter unless I really have been living under a rock for a while, and you probably, in that case, you hate Steven Gerrard with every bone that you have under your soul. What do you think, Steven Gerrard to Aston Villa? Obviously, you'll know what he's done at Rangers. He's made them competitive, won their first league title in, I think, was it 9 years? I think it was, so, or 10 years. So, what do you think? Do you think that this is the right appointment for Aston Villa, or could this be a bit of a risk?
So first of all, obviously to answer the Rangers question, I'm not a fan specifically, no, but my grandfather's Scottish and he is, and obviously my great grandfather was also Scottish and was also a supporter of Rangers as well. But no, for myself, I do want them to do well because of obviously that familial connection, but not specifically a Rangers fan in terms of following them, obviously in the way that Reece does. In terms of Steven Gerrard, I think it's obviously a good. With any, just to answer that question, with any manager that comes in, obviously, which I've said quite often, really, because obviously, as you know, as people obviously are watching will know, we've spoken about trying to get a new manager instead of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer plenty of times, and there's been lots of candidates that have been mentioned. And with all of those candidates, although there have been characteristics and benefits of each one, there have also been obviously weaknesses within each one. I still believe, and there are definitely risks. So there is always risks, even no matter which manager that Aston Villa had chosen. But I think Gerrard obviously has done exceptionally well at Rangers, and I also think that really he's probably thinking of it logically. If his end goal is to become the manager of Liverpool, he's thinking of it that he must gain. He's probably thinking in terms of his CV. He's probably looking to gain experience of managing the Premier League, and ultimately that's probably influenced quite heavily his decision to manage Aston Villa, and obviously it remains to be said. Aston Villa do have a good side and a good squad, so they should probably be doing better than they are doing. But ultimately, I think I'll need to I would need to check this because, but I'm pretty sure that Manchester United, if we're going by the form guide over the past 6 games or whatever it is, I'm pretty sure we've got the worst record out of any Premier League side in terms of like points accrued, and yet all these different, even like Norwich and Villa and all these other clubs are squeezing their managers and somehow I'm sticking around. But yeah, obviously a good appointment for Aston Villa, and obviously they know that they need to improve results, and they see Gerrard clearly as the man to do it. But yeah, as I said, there's always a risk with any manager, but knowing how well Gerrard's already done his managerial career, he's clearly got something good about his managerial ability. So I think he'll probably succeed at Aston Villa.
I still think even if he does bad, he'll still get the Liverpool job, just like Chelsea did with Lampard. So just a very quick question: this yes or no? Are we all in agreement maybe sacking Dean Smith off the back of 5 games was still a bit harsh, given he brought them up into the Premier League, he's built this team? Do you think the sacking was harsh, or do you agree with it?
I'm extremely harsh and ruthless anyway as a person, so I agree with it.
Fair enough.
I think it was the right decision. I think it was the right decision.
In terms of Steven Gerrard, has he took all of the Rangers coaching staff with him, like Jerry McAllister and everyone else? Have they all gone with him, or are they staying at Rangers, Reece? Reece is...
Sorry, what'd you say there? Sorry.
Yeah. Has Steven Gerrard took all of the Rangers coaching staff with him, including Jerry McAllister and all? Have all gone with him?
He has, yeah. McAllister and Beale have went.
So, in terms of Rangers' next appointment, I know there's 2 managers in the mix. There's a guy called Gino something. He's a former player, used to be the Feyenoord
Giovanni
manager.
Van Bronckhorst.
And then the other one, conveniently, is Frank Lampard. The two guys that Rangers have been speaking to. Just a brief. Villa have lost 21 games in 2000, not just those 5 games in a row, mate. Yeah, but it's five games in a row that might have got them sacked in the end. So what do you think, Reece, about the next Rangers appointment manager? Would you take Frank Lampard? Do you prefer Gino? What do you think?
I would prefer Van Bronckhorst, and then after that, I would say Gattuso. Lampard, no. I think it has to be someone with that mentality, somebody that actually understands the club, and those 2 have played for the club, and they're both managers as well. So I'd rather Van Bronckhorst than Gattuso.
Oh, fair enough. So moving on to the next sacking, which it was Daniel Farke, who got sacked after Norwich wins. So obviously Norwich win a football game, and Norwich win a game, and the Norwich board's like, what is winning a football game now? We don't do this here at Norwich Football Club. We don't win football games. Daniel Farke, you get sacked. So I don't understand how we're going to do that twice. So Norwich win a football game, and they're like, "No, we don't do that here." So Daniel Farke got sacked after actually winning a football game. Which, what funny, they said they lost that game. He might have actually stayed in the job. I don't know why. I just feel like that would have been the case. George, it's hard to say anything about Daniel Farke. He's probably just robbed the living, because he literally signed a contract there in the summer with Norwich, so he's getting literally a massive payout, and he doesn't have to probably deal with having been one of the worst managers, or potentially being the worst manager the Premier League's ever seen. You can't really argue with a sacking, though, could you? Really?
I can't, but I think it is surprising, because I think we all said, that he was probably one of those managers that we felt that Norwich wouldn't sack, even despite how badly they've done in the Premier League, obviously before. But realistically, if you look at the results on paper and how abysmal Norwich really have been this season, then it's an extremely obvious sacking, perhaps even more so than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Though it pains me to say it in terms of points accrual. But obviously, then again, you've got to take into consideration difference of playing staff, of playing squad, and obviously the expectations of the clubs as well, of course. But yeah, I think obviously I don't know the sort of intrinsics of it, but I imagine that Norwich were already planning to sack him and already obviously had that international break as that nice sort of bookmark where you can sort of get rid of a manager and have your time to bring in a new one and maybe get them have a chance to work with the players for a few days as well before the next game, which. I'm not going to mention Manchester United again about that, but even though it's burning me not to. But it's obviously a decision that had to be made. They're probably looking to try and survive this season, although I think that's going to be a very tough ask, even with the new manager, who's probably not going to be a miracle worker, or at least of the standard of caliber of coaches that they could attract. But yeah, ultimately, they probably already. It was a nice farewell present for him because, as I said, they're probably already going to get rid of him anyway. Nice farewell present for him that they got a win under their belts finally. That's some much needed 3 points, whichever poor sod they've got in as the next manager trying to steady that ship.
Yes, we will come on to that. Reece, obviously you love the German league, you love German managers, you love the German national team, but Daniel Farke is probably an embarrassment in terms of a guy who tries to play the German way. When you look at how bad that Norwich team play in the Premier League, they don't really have a game plan. They kind of just like 11 people going out on the pitch and kicking a ball and hoping for the best. I think Reece looks really confusing.
I've got a quiz on at the same time that I'm actually trying to win. Sorry. I just look overall and we aren't particularly. What am I actually talking about? Sorry. So it's because I'm listening to yourself and I'm listening to trying to win a quiz as well. So I'm trying to do both. Oh, Norwich. Fuck them. I really don't care.
That's just saying.
So I refuse to talk about a club that has no relevancy in my life.
But Daniel Farke's German, and you like German coaches. And
I like German managers that are good. I like German managers that are good, and he isn't. If the fact that he's on the list for the Rangers managers is disgusting. I'm sorry, but he shouldn't be on there.
No, there's no way he's in contention to take Rangers. Like
he's on the list.
Daniel Farke to take over Rangers. That's like George walking up to Liverpool with his Liverpool scarf on, saying, "I'll take the job." It just doesn't sound right. Exactly. Doug, if you want to come on, you're more than welcome. The link is obviously in our group chat. Norwich should never be in the Premier League in the first place. In terms of obviously Doug has said about Dean Smith taking over, I don't think Dean Smith's going to keep him up, but what a downgrade, George. From Aston Villa with a really good squad, good backing, good money to a bang average Norwich team that are not going to do anything. It's such a downgrade for him, isn't it? You kind of feel bad for him, actually.
Well, 100%, but ultimately he's not, I think whatever project they've sold to him, he's clearly on board with, because otherwise he wouldn't have taken the job. Obviously no one's forcing him to do it. Maybe he thought, with Christmas coming in, that he was going to be. He needed some. He needed some extra money in his pocket for all the presents he was going to buy. And he obviously just, with that sacking, he thought, no, I've got to get another job no matter what. And obviously Norwich have come knocking, and he's answered the call. As obviously Doug's reported from the Athletic. But as I sort of said, I think it's going to be a real disaster for him, because I don't really see. I don't think even Sir Alex Ferguson's going to be able to, coming out of retirement, is going to be able to keep Norwich in the Premier League. So, but obviously, stranger things have happened. Obviously, Leicester did win the Premier League 5 years ago, which no one would have ever dreamt possible. So, yeah, it's good luck to Dean and Norwich. But from my own point of view, I think they are going to be rock bottom of the league come May.
We've had to make a real life substitution. Reece said he needs to focus on the quiz, so we've substituted Douglas in. They call me a tactical genius for a reason. Hi Doug, how you doing?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
It's good to be back on YouTube in some sense. There's been a lot that's happened maybe over the last 14 days, which it's kind of amazing. The whole Premier League managerial faces have kind of changed at some of the big clubs, and it's a good thing for us both. As Chelsea and the Liverpool fans, that Manchester United are still going to be a bang average mid-table club. So,
yeah,
Doug, what do you? Doug, what do you think then about Dean Smith? It's such a great. I kind of feel bad for the guy. He goes from an Aston Villa team to that Norwich team. I kind of feel bad for him, but
I honestly say whoever gets this Norwich job is a poison chalice. I think they're all but good, all but gone. If I'm being honest, like I don't see any. Yes, I know they beat Brentford, but I know Brentford are going on a bit of a bad run. But at this moment in time, I just cannot see anybody going into that Norwich job and manage to keep this side in the Premier League. I just don't. I feel sorry for Dean Smith because he's obviously the only one that really Norwich have gone for. I know obviously the stuff with obviously Frank Lampard, but I'm glad Frank Lampard hasn't taken that job because I don't think he would have wanted a big R above his head like with relegation on it. So I think the Norwich job is a poison chalice, and I think they are going to get relegated anyway. So I think whoever takes over, I think it's just to prepare for next season in the Championship, I'm afraid.
never know. Dean Smith might have the shortest time lived in the Premier League as a manager. If they win another game, he might get sacked for all we know. Because apparently Norwich don't like winning Premier League games, you get sacked for it. Maybe lost all those games on purpose. So just briefly, what did you think about Steven Gerrard? Obviously, a good appointment for Aston Villa, but maybe the timing for Rangers, given they have two massive games after the international break coming up, maybe the timing stinks a wee bit for, which kind of maybe ruins kind of what he did for Rangers over those last couple of years.
Yeah, I think it's a very good move for Aston Villa. The only thing I can say is I think he's maybe done it maybe too early, but obviously time will tell. But he needed to get to somewhere that he could go to that could actually be able to, challenge for, I think Aston Villa just have to look at this season and think top 10 would be the main priority, and then probably aim towards those European places next season. I think he'll do a good job. I think he'll go in there, steady the ship. I think he's got a good style of football as well. And the one thing about Steven Gerrard is he can get results, and he got results at Rangers. I think he's a very good manager. I mean, obviously, the 11th of December is going to be very interesting because of Liverpool Villa, Gerrard in the away dugout at Anfield. That's going to be so strange. Anyway, so good luck to him. I wish him the best of luck. But he's done a very good job at Rangers. I think to go unbeaten and then look ahead to potentially like defending the title, I'm not sure there was anything else he could have done at Rangers. So I think he's probably done this at the right time. He probably has moved for maybe family reasons as well. He lives in Cheshire. That journey from Glasgow to Cheshire must be taken out on him. So I think to be somewhere closer to home, I think Rangers fans, obviously, I know I've seen a lot of comments saying call him snake and all this nonsense, but I think because he's a family man, I think one of the reasons he has left Rangers, I think, was to be closer to home.
That's fair enough. I'm gonna so hello Maisie, big up Josh, Doug, and George.
Hi, Maisie.
Again, Josh, thank you very much. Hello Muncie. I do I don't know if I'll podcast on Muncie Wednesday on his Wednesday nights on his channel. So check him out if you're interested in that. Obviously Jade and Maisie having fun there. Hello Kane. Thank you very much for joining. I think he'll struggle. He'll probably struggle for the first while because there was a big difference between managing Rangers in the Scottish League and coming into Aston Villa here. League is very, very strong, especially with teams around us. Maisie follows me around. I have that problem, Jade. If you're still here, I have exactly that problem with Jade. So I know your feelings. If Joe was brilliant at Rangers, all he needs is patience with the club. He can potentially build up. He absolutely could. He did an incredible job with that Rangers team over the last few years to take them to where they are now. So, and if ever does replace him at Rangers, that's a good foundation to work off. So, onto the next manager side, which probably was the least surprising one, was Nuno getting sacked for Antonio Conte. No, honestly, Antonio Conte took charge of the game against Everton, and it was quite. I didn't think Spurs were that great, but it's hard to judge. Conte was only had 2-3 training sessions with the team. Now, this is the thing. Antonio Conte's a serial winner. He wherever he goes, he wins. Doug, do you think Spurs might win a trophy, or do you think this is just a car crash to happen with Daniel leaving Antonio Conte?
When I first heard about this, I was immediately thinking marriage made in hell, Conte and Daniel Levy. I mean, that is just something that just scares the living daylights out of me. But I think he'll do well there. I honestly do. I think he will come in, he'll steady the ship. They need to defend a lot better. I mean, Nuno came in, was brought in as a defensive sort of manager, but I think they lost half their games like 3-0 as well, which is very, very strange as well. But yeah, Conte. I think Conte's kind of proven there's not much loyalty in football anymore. You know how you've gone from, what was it, Chelsea, Inter Milan, and then and then Spurs. I don't know how Chelsea fans will be feeling, because obviously I know Mourinho's done it as well, but I don't see him being there 4+ years. I think he's probably there maybe 2 years. I'm not sure he is a long-term manager, Conte. But I do think he might get backed in the January window for sure, because the Spurs side really needs to be a lot better as well. But yeah, I watched that Everton game, and that's 90 minutes of my life I'm never going to get back.
George, without trying to mention the Glazers not going for Antonio Conte when you probably should have got him, what do you think about Conte at Spurs? Is it going to be a success, or is it going to be a car crash?
So it's very difficult, isn't it? Because with Spurs, they do have this immense pedigree for bottling. It's whether Antonio Conte's winning mentality, obviously, is able to be translated or corresponded through the actual team. Sometimes I think with those, it's difficult, because I almost feel like the manager has to bring in these sort of winners. In terms of the playing staff, because you need those leaders on the pitch, and they almost might be a case of Antonio Conte standing on the sideline gesticulating, being furious, but not having sufficient, because you still do need those, as Roy Keane says, in absolutely every single every single TV appearance that he's ever had. He goes up, bangs on about characters in a team, and he talks about, obviously, you have to have good characters in the team, which he'll say in every single, if you watch, he'll say in every single TV appearance that he's got. He always talks about those, which he's completely spot on. That's basically the final detail that makes winners, really, is that mentality. Because in terms of playing abilities, when you're at the top level, and Spurs do have a very accomplished and good team that should be competing, that final step to actually winning is mentality. And obviously, as Chiellini, famously said as well, it is the history of the Tottenham. After Juventus came back against them in the Champions League, and really that is the case. And it's been a long time for Tottenham not to win a trophy since 2008, obviously with the League Cup, and they've definitely not had a pedigree of winning trophies certainly in my lifetime either. So it's just been, it's whether he can give them that final step. What I would say, and they obviously brought in Mourinho to deliver that as well, didn't they? But what I would say is that for me, anyway, the difference between Mourinho and Conte is that Conte is, I feel like, in his prime as a manager, and I think Mourinho was coming to the end of it, and he isn't necessarily the manager he once was. Whereas I think Conte is smack bang rather in the middle of his prime, and that's what they need. And I think he is going to be successful in terms of winning a trophy. But obviously, as Doug has said, I think it's going to be a very short-term, stint as Spurs manager. It wouldn't surprise me, because we know that Conte is very incendiary, and that's really going to rub Daniel Levy up the wrong way as well. So yeah, I don't see it being a long-term thing, but I do think they'll win a trophy, and obviously they've got a very good chance, as we know already, in the League Cup now, with only 3 matches left to win in a row. And obviously with Manchester City having gone, the archetypal winners every single season pretty much since Pep's been here. So yeah, they've got a good chance in that, and I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't win that as well. Just for my final sort of point on that, just about Spurs, is, and it's obviously in relation to what Keane said about Harry Kane, is that obviously it was against Albania, that hat-trick for Harry Kane. I know, admittedly, one of them was a superb bicycle kick in terms of technique, But ultimately, Albania, in all of these sort of qualifiers, you see quite a lot of these teams who are not really professional, should I say? Not really of a good standard, and then everyone sort of bigs up these players and these performances when it's not against good players. So, it remains to be seen whether Conte can get the best out of Kane, because that's got to be his primary objective, is getting Spurs scoring goals, which obviously they didn't do. You alluded to the Everton game as well. And in many ways, they were quite fortunate in that Everton game as well, because obviously that knob jockey, Chris Kavanagh, was at the heart of things again with his VAR, giving a penalty that wasn't a penalty, stopping Everton when when Richarlison got back up, and it was things wouldn't have happened that way in a way even if he hadn't sort of blown the whistle either, because I think Richarlison would have got up, but I don't necessarily think it was still a goal scoring opportunity, and there might have been a goal, but it was a tricky one. But like I said, it was just funny that you can just imagine what must have been going through Chris Kavanagh's mind when he thought to himself, I've made this call here. He got up and he was about to try and score again, and I made this call and I blew the whistle. It's a penalty. And then he goes to the monitor and sees that it's not a foul. And he has to have the ignominy of overturning his decision that stopped a goal scoring opportunity. So, very, but typical really of there was plenty of those sort of decisions I've seen over the past week as well. These referees being absolutely terrible, and Kavanagh's one of the worst exponents of that. But just the final sort of summary. I think Conte will be successful, but it'll be a short-term thing. But I think most Spurs won't care, because most Spurs fans won't care if he wins them a trophy.
If they win the European Conference League, they'll be singing for champions of Europe and stuff like that. And God, I will cringe if that does happen. And so here's a question I kind of thought of before we move on to a more of an interesting manager appointment. Who do you think is worse between, in terms of Premier League management, who do you think is worse between Daniel Farke and Alan Pardew?
I'd have to say Daniel Farke, because 6 wins from 59 league games says it all, really.
I would go with Farke as well. Obviously, the same reason, really. Just terrible record, and ultimately the other thing is I don't think he ever learns. Although obviously, and for Pardew, he's always, probably one of the most entertaining things of obviously with Manchester United against Crystal Palace and that FA Cup final when he was dancing away like an absolute.
Oh God!
And obviously, we ended up winning. So as I said, I can't really go. I've got to give Pardew some credit for providing with a very hilarious moment a few years ago. So
that was hilarious, yeah. But I think if you look at Norwich as points wise, obviously I know they beat Brentford, but before that they'd actually, I think, one win, I think, was against Leicester City in, I think, January 2020. They had taken, out of a possible 64 points, 3 points from 64.
That's just insane. And in terms of probably one of the more manager appointments that was made during these past 2 weeks was obviously Xavi going to Barcelona. And he's also decided to sign Dani Alves, which was very out of the blue, which is something Barcelona have been wanting to do for a while. Coleman said no. Xavi said yes, but he can't play until January officially. This is a bit of an interesting one. Xavi, who's only got managerial experience in quarter, which is, let's be fair, it's not really much to take. It's like managing that over here in the Irish League. It really isn't really going to do him much benefits when he's trying to play European football and compete with Atletico Madrid and Real Sociedad in La Liga. Doug, what do you think? It's a hard one to call, but he's walking into a mess of a club. It's a mess of a squad. It's a mess financially. It's a mess on and off the pitch. It's a big job. It's a risk. It's a really big risk to walk into.
It is a huge risk to get Xavi. Obviously, the fans will be happy. Club legend like Xavi, but you've already seen what happened to Ronald Koeman, and I think the term club legend has obviously done that for Barcelona. Look, I think his main priority is to try and get through the Champions League group. I think that's their main priority. If I'm being honest, I know they beat a very poor Dynamo Kiev side by 1-0. That kind of just shows how poor Barcelona have been. But I think if you look at the group at the moment, I think Barcelona are still second. I think Bayern Munich are cruising away anyway. So Bayern Munich are definitely through. But the problem I have is with that is that I think it's Bayern Munich, Barcelona next, if I remember rightly. I think Benfica got Dynamo Kiev. So then it's coming to Barcelona, Benfica, the final game. That is absolutely huge. If you imagine Barcelona falling into the Europa League, then you'd probably say that they would probably have a chance of winning the Europa League for a change. But I have to say, it's just one of those things with Barcelona. Look, I think it's a season in transition this season, you'd have to say, because their squad is not great. I mean, we've gone from having Messi, Suarez, Neymar, Messi, Suarez, Coutinho to Braithwaite, De Jong, and Depay. That is honestly going from Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond, and James May on Top Gear to Paddy McGuinness, Freddie Flintoff, and I think his name's Chris Reed or someone like that. It's just a big fall from grace. So I think Xavi is going to need some time. Whether Barcelona give him the time or not is another matter. But they are going to be absolutely nowhere near winning the Champions League. They're nowhere near going to be winning La Liga. They maybe do surprising like the Copa del Rey or the Spanish League Cup or something like that. But they're not going to win the big trophies anytime soon.
I'm glad you mentioned those guys from Top Gear because those three were absolutely amazing together, and the Race series on Amazon Prime is absolutely amazing. But sorry, I'm off topic. Those three guys really do crack. But George, one thing about Xavi, you probably still take him over Ole Solskjaer Manchester United. You probably take Doug at this rate. What do you think? Do you see this being a dream match heaven? It's all going to work out well. Do you think Xavi's in for a very, very painful remaining of the season before the transfer window comes around, or the summer transfer window comes, should I say?
I think it will. He'll struggle again. I think you have to always imagine. It's a two-sided thing, isn't it? Really. Obviously, there are other elements to whether a team is successful, but the majority, if you were assigning a pie chart, the majority of the pie will go to two factors, which is the manager or the coaching staff, but also the playing staff. And obviously, as Doug has spoken about, the squad has really deteriorated and depreciated since what they might ostensibly call the golden years, particularly in that attack. Dani Alves, I'm not quite sure if what I was reading was true, obviously, about how he was accepting a almost like, I think it was like €1 per week wage in order to play. I'm not sure whether that's actually been confirmed yet or not, because that does seem ridiculous. Although the fact is, I'm sure he probably can afford to do that because he's made so much money over what has been. Let's all be true about this. A glittering career. I think he is still the most decorated footballer who's ever been, Dani Alves. So an amazing career, legend of the game. And clearly, what he feels like he can do something for Barcelona, and I do agree. Actually, certainly he's going to obviously it's going to be him and Alba probably obviously on the other side, and it's going to be the sort of aging team trying to bring back some glory. But obviously, as Doug's mentioned, he's got that thing about the UCL, which again there's going to be a sort of make or break match. In La Liga, they're well adrift, obviously miles back, and probably will struggle. I think even if Xavi's successful, probably struggle to reel back in the likes of Real Madrid at the top of the table. But yeah, I've seen also as well, to be honest with you, I've seen it like clips of. I remember because a lot of Barcelona fans, some of the more romantic ones, have wanted Xavi back for quite some time to be their manager. And I've seen some clips circulating, obviously, of when he has been playing, or when he has been managing, in Qatar, and his team has played some very what you might call tiki-taka football. So clearly that is within his philosophy, but there is a big gulf, as between managing in Qatar and managing in Spain, and it could be a step too far from him. And I think often as well, I'd like to find out the statistics on this, but I'm not quite sure what the chances are or likelihood of a club legend is succeeding at a club. But certainly in recent times, if we think about it, there's been very poor records of previous players at clubs. I mean, again, obviously I'm not going to mention because I've been told not to, but I'm not going to mention a certain club. But if we're talking obviously about Frank Lampard at Chelsea, I think you could argue. I don't think he had a very successful time of it. Obviously, and then you've got a pedigree coach in Tuchel to take you to the next level and obviously win things. So yeah, I think it'll be good initially for Xavi, and but I don't see him succeeding unless he gets major investment, which again he's probably not going to. And even if the hero Dani Alves comes back as well.
Obviously, Reece is back. Reece was doing a quiz. He won, so well done, Reece. Back. He's already given up on us.
Won it comfortably.
Won it comfortably. Okay.
I didn't win the shirt that I wanted because that was taken by a worthy recipient. So I took the 1978 Man United shirt, the white Man United Admiral shirt.
That's not too bad at all. Do you want to? Have you got any comments about Xavi to Barcelona you want to make?
I'll be honest. I think it's a bit. I was listening to what George was saying whilst I was doing the quiz there, and I do agree with George about the romantic feel. Like in terms of Barcelona fans have wanted Xavi back for a long time because it's the right fit. He's a Barca man through and through. He's also done particularly well in Qatar. My only worry is it's all due respect, it's Qatar. But he has been playing some good football, and it just comes down to how he takes the club forward. I think for Barcelona itself, he really needs to get certain players on side. He needs to get back to what brought Barcelona to the dance. That's the academy football. That's promoting the young players within La Masia, getting them back to that, avoiding the big Galacticos transfers, which has ruined Barcelona. He needs to build a team properly. He needs to get certain people out of the club that aren't even Barcelona players in the first place. I don't necessarily think he was the right choice first. I think maybe down the line, maybe when he had more managerial experience, then bring him back, or bring him back as a number 2 and then groom him into the role to take over. But I think now, because he's got the job, he is the main man. He's going to have to run with it. He's got Laporte above him as well. So at least it's somebody who was there during his best years as a player. At least he's got that familiarity, where he can just go in and do things. So I think there's some good things and there's some bad things, but we'll see. I think it's a risky choice. I think it's very risky. I think they should have went for a manager that does make sense as well, like a manager that I want at Man United, but it makes sense from a Barcelona perspective as Ten Hag. That makes a lot of sense. But they've given the job to Xavi. There's clearly something about Xavi other than being a club legend that they're impressed with. He's going to get the backing. He's really going to have to be careful with this one, because this isn't just a job, though. This is a poison chalice at the moment, because Barcelona are in such a free fall, and that's because of past mistakes from the likes of Bartomeu and Sandro Rosell that could have crippled Barcelona even further. But we'll see. I wish him well, but I think it's going to be a very, very long road for Xavi at Barcelona, because bad results could cost them. But I think he'll be okay.
So our final managerial change that we're going to talk about is Eddie Howe coming into Newcastle. Now, I am not particularly as excited if I was a Newcastle fan about this, because don't get me wrong, I think Eddie Howe is a decent manager, but I look back at his time at Bournemouth, I think that season they got relegated. That squad was still too good to go down. I think Eddie Howe never really. I think Eddie Howe made a lot of poor choices in that season, and I think they should never have got relegated, especially in the way that they did. Even if you look over the course of the seasons, Bournemouth always just had quite a bad run of form, especially towards the end of the season, where they dropped off and they weren't playing particularly well. And his defensive record is quite bad. He was never one to have a really good defense at Bournemouth. So I'm kind of skeptical. Doug, do you think he's good enough to take Newcastle out of the relegation, which is the only thing that matters between now and the end of the season?
Yeah, I do actually. I think it's a very good appointment. I think getting somebody in eventually. Like Eddie Howe is a very good manager. I'm not going to take away from it. Yes, I know. Defensively his teams were shocking, But the one thing you get with Eddie Howe is attacking football. Newcastle have been wanting attacking football for absolute ages. Now, when Bournemouth were good, they were very, very good. I remember when they went to I think Hull, I think they won 5-0. When they went to Wigan, I think they won 8-0. You see, attacking football gives you that evidence to try and be a better manager. Newcastle the fans have been wanting change for a long time. They've got it with the new owners. Now they've got it with Eddie Howe. I think Eddie Howe has been presented very, very well in the media. He's been presented very well by the Newcastle fans as well. I think he'll do a good job. I think Brentford at home is a very, very hard game to begin with, but the way Brentford are going, you probably fancy Newcastle to probably get a win there. Newcastle, the only team of the 92 league teams to have not won a game yet this season. So I think it's a very good appointment, and I think he will bring attacking, flowing football, which Newcastle fans want. And also, he had some very, very good times with Ryan Fraser and Callum Wilson. Both of them are at Newcastle now. I think he'll have a good time with both of them.
George, what do you think? Newcastle stay up under Eddie Howe, or Eddie Howe to bring them back down to the Championship?
I think they will stay up. I think it's going to be extremely interesting now. Slightly less than 2 months out from the January transfer window as to where Newcastle are at that juncture. And I know obviously the owners had made it public they wouldn't necessarily be spending big in that window, but it's whether there's the pressure there and they feel like they have to do it in order to ensure survival. And obviously if they don't, whether that will then cost them in the long run. It's going to be quite an interesting balancing act for them, I feel like, in terms of their sort of new investment. But really, I think even if they don't, and obviously they do get relegated, I think with those new owners they've got, I think it's not going to be too long until they're back up anyway and challenging for all the major honours, because I've seen enough, obviously with Chelsea and with Manchester City, I've seen enough of when an owner comes in, and a very wealthy owner comes in and makes a massive difference to clubs, no matter how bad they were previously. It can make a massive difference. So for Newcastle fans, I wouldn't be too disheartened if you do get relegated for that reason, because I can just see them suddenly switching on FIFA mode and buying every brilliant player around the world, trying to go and win all the big prizes. So yeah, if you're a Newcastle fan, it's still an extremely exciting time. But obviously, an Eddie Howe, I think he's probably looking at it as a dream ticket a bit as well, in the fact that he's got a chance to be part of the next great project ultimately in Newcastle. Although what I would say there is that if Newcastle do decide to get do exactly what I've just said, which has become hyper successful, they'll probably get rid of him as well. So it's a bit of a poison chalice in that respect as well, to get in a better manager. But yeah, probably a good appointment at the moment. But as I said, they've got that safety net in a way, Newcastle, and I'm sure their fans are looking forward to a very bright future, regardless of whether they survive this season.
One thing I find funny is that obviously Eddie Howe's number 2 at Newcastle is Jason Tindall, who he was the number 2 to Big Sam at West Brom last year, under that obviously horrendous team that Big Sam had, and then he was also the manager who took over from Bournemouth, and he was absolutely atrocious at Bournemouth, and he ended up getting the sack. He was caught on his phone, texting on his phone during the game, and all. I just think that's quite funny. Reece, what do you think about Eddie Howe? Fan or no fan? Your mic's still on mute before you start yapping away.
Yeah, no, I put myself on mute. I'll be honest, I'm not sure, because there are some good things to this. There are some negatives. For me, the obvious negative is he's the one that we know is going to be the man to start the Newcastle project. We do know that. He's going to be the first man that they've brought in. It's where he goes from here. My only concern is we've never seen him really manage a club with that sort of history. All due respect to Bournemouth, they don't have one. But Newcastle they have had success in the past. It's a matter of where do they want to go. I think he could build a relatively good side, similar to what Mark Hughes did at Man City. He could build like a particularly good side, build up, and then the next man just adds to it with a bit more elite level players and mixes it in. Then they take from there, like what they did with Mancini. That makes a lot of sense. It's just where they want to go. What way do they want to take things to the next level? Who knows? He could end up winning a few things if he gets the right signings and he gets them playing very good, consistent football. He could potentially win something. He could win an FA Cup. He could win a Carabao Cup. And that'd be good for him because he hasn't achieved that sort of honour either. So at least for him as a manager, it gives him that length of time to stay in the job a bit longer. As long as you actually see sustainable good football and progression. If it doesn't go well, even if he was to win something, if he was to win a trophy but not go to the next level, it stagnates, then you know they'll pull the trigger. I don't think they're going to give him an awful lot of time. I think they'll give him to the length of the contract, like a couple of years or whatever he's got. I think a couple of years, I think he'll get, and then they'll move him on. But they won't. I don't think they'll disrespect him because within English football, he is a respectful manager. Eddie Howe, he speaks well, he plays good football, he protects his players as well, and I think that's important from a managerial side. And to be fair, the only reason his Bournemouth team got relegated is because his best defender, with all due respect, got pinched off him. His players were getting injured and he had Aaron Ramsdale in goal. So he was basically stuck from the get-go. But at least even though he was having injuries, his team was actually still playing good football. I think that's consistent.
He had Solanke.
But that's the thing, though. There's a level of consistency, and he was actually maintaining it.
Reece didn't even bother making a comment about Thomas Solanke. I think that says it all.
No one particularly gives a fuck about Dominic Solanke, though. Nobody really cares.
The last
but
one,
yeah,
as
a fan,
match,
I would say a fan, yeah, but there are some negatives.
So the final manager thing we're going to talk about is the guy he hasn't got sacked somehow, and that is only got a social. Yes, it may be a broken record talking about it, but the fact is this guy is going to be in charge against Watford come next weekend. Doug, and we've probably spoke about this ever since Solskjaer got the full-time job about him as a manager and stuff, but generally the squad that they have, where Manchester United should be in the league table, is nowhere where they should be. You know, if they didn't have young boys at Old Trafford, you'd even be questioning would they make it out of their Champions League group. They're kind of looking at young boys falls at the right time for them. How the hell is this guy still in a job?
Well, the fact that they've got who's it, like Villarreal away and then Chelsea away. I mean, if he doesn't beat Watford, then he's probably good as gone. If I'm being honest with you, but I think it's all about getting a replacement, and yet even I don't think Brendan Rodgers is the right man to take United forward either. So, look, the thing is, Solskjaer should have been gone after the Liverpool game. He should have been gone after then. I mean, 5-0 to your biggest rivals at home. Yes, I know I enjoyed it, but there was a certain element to this is just too easy. Like, it's just too easy to just keep playing through United at will. And then against Manchester City, the lack of fight, the lack of effort as well. Like, obviously, I will ask, obviously, George and Reece this question, but what do you guys think was worse? Did you think the Liverpool result was worse or the Man City result was worse? Because I have to say, the way that you played against Manchester City was absolutely unacceptable. The lack of effort, the lack of fight. I can't think of any shots on target that you guys had either. Like, against Liverpool, yes, I know you were like 5-0 down, but, Ronaldo got one back. I know that obviously Pogba was sent off as well, but he's a troublemaker anyway. But the fact that he's out for 10 weeks maybe gives Donny van de Beek a chance. But we all know that he'll probably go with somebody else like a Matic or somebody like that. But I honestly think that he is just on a ticking bomb right now. But my question to both of you guys is, what was worse, the Liverpool result or the Man City result?
The Man City result for me was the worst one because we actually wanted to fight against Liverpool. We actually, even though we were getting spanked 5-0, we were actually making more of an effort against Man City. We didn't turn up. It was lazy. It was lethargic. It was uninspired. It was just like our fan base on Twitter. It was toxic on the field. It was simply put, we didn't get a sniff of the ball. We only had from that one game that I can remember, one shot on target, and that was Ronaldo's volley. I can't remember any other opportunity, but more shots on goal against David De Gea than we did against Ederson. That's how bad we were. Like, we were getting ripped to pieces. Gary Neville called it a mauling. I think he was being generous. I think that was a full-on slaughtering. Like, that was like playing, like, like when we were all in our lifetime, we've played video games. When you're younger, like Assassin's Creed 2, when you got objectives for stealth kills or like Ezio, that's what it felt like. It felt like completing an objective. It felt like we were actually, first we were pickpocketed. They stole our pride. As football players, their pride was stolen. And then secondly, they killed them off one by one. And they picked each player and they went through them easily. The only one basically that left that day with his pride still intact, even though he had to watch that shit show from his own net, was David De Gea. I saw one goalkeeper and 10 useless brats. Yeah. None of them deserved to wear a shirt that day. None of them deserved the wages they should have gave them to the Man United Foundation.
Do you know what that reminded me of? It reminded me of the scene in The Simpsons where somebody says, "No, stop it! Stop! He's already dead. He's already dead." It just that Liverpool game just reminded me of that, and that Man City result just reminded me of that as well.
If I could explain there's two other ways I could describe it. Famously, in 2007, we were given a letter by a certain team that we demolished in the Champions League, begging for us to not beat them like that again. It's no more goals. Roma. They begged us not to do that to them again. And then the other result is the equivalent of Germany versus Brazil in 2014. Brazil versus Germany in 2014 was the game against Man City, because Brazil that day got royally destroyed. And the Roma result is the equivalent of Man United versus Roma in 2007. That is how I would describe both games.
George, over to you. So you finally talk about Solskjaer. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, he survived again somehow. There's not much to be said that hasn't already been said. Not only obviously on this show, but also for the last couple of years. You sort of struggle really sometimes because he's just been in the job for so long. Ultimately, I think overall the result was obviously, for me anyway, in my opinion, was probably worse against Liverpool, obviously with the scoreline. But in terms of the performance, it was against City because there was just this lack of fight and utter cowardice. I think it was just a case of sort of, just curling up into a ball and hoping that the enemy doesn't beat you up too badly. There was just absolutely no spark, no fight, no desire, no will. And it for me, it showed how demotivated the players are. I know obviously Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has fielded questions about lack of belief as well from the players, and I feel like there's a real I think there's a real breaking of the team's spirit and morale, which you can only sort of understand after so many poor results this season. But I still think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will soldier on. Don't want Rodgers obviously for many reasons, but yeah, I think that probably is going to be the appointment that the club try and make, just because they've got absolutely zero idea about anything. So that'll be another person I want out very shortly. So that'll be something to look forward to. But hopefully that doesn't materialise, but or transpire. But somehow I think it will be. But yeah, in terms of the overall games, absolutely terrible against Man City. Just such a lack of fight and ability, and every player played absolutely terribly. And obviously against Liverpool there were opportunities. I think Cavani hit the bar as well in that game. So there were chances where we could have got back into it, where at least because that's one thing you can guarantee with Cavani, obviously, is that he's a fighter and obviously a winner. So we obviously miss him as well, and because he's unfortunate with injuries and things like that as well. But it doesn't really sort of matter. I still see many horrible things happening. Obviously, you have to laugh because you're going to cry, but there's going to be some horror shows left in this season, probably as well in terms of this. We're talking about the Champions League group. I don't see that being done by any stretch of the imagination with this team and this manager. So even if the young boys, we only need a point. to qualify, I can still somehow see us managing to mess that up. So there's no guarantees until the final whistle's blown on that, or at least we've qualified no matter what mathematically. Because Villarreal away is going to be, I fancy a horrible defeat in that as well. So that's going to put all the pressure on the young boys match. And as I said, these players just don't know how to deal with pressure, and neither does the manager or the coaching staff. And in the league, obviously, we've got some tough games coming up. I think even Watford, that's going to be relatively tricky. I think this team's totally lifeless. Any game's a potential slip up and a loss, and it's mind-boggling to me, and incredibly arrogant, I feel, of the board and the ownership to feel that there shouldn't be a change made to the managerial staff and coaching staff. But what I would say is when Ollie does go, I want all of his staff gone as well, because they've got a large amount of culpability as well in this absolute farce that the Glazers and the board and the ownership are allowing to continue.
What do you mean, Mike Phil to the end of the season? I did see this really weird thing. That is Solskjaer did get sacked. It'd be Darren Fletcher until the end of the season. Like Darren Fletcher.
He said he will not take the job. He said he's distanced himself from the job. He won't take it. He won't get it. It'll be Michael Carrick. I guarantee it. If Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got sacked, it'd be and they didn't bother to bring in a proper manager as an interim, like somebody who can just stabilise and then get a manager in the summer. Like a Rangnick, but this club has no brain.
I actually worry for United at Chelsea. I think the Chelsea result, I think that could be the end. I think a heavy defeat at Chelsea. I think it ends. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you. I honestly don't see you winning in Villarreal. I think Villarreal will probably win that game, and then you're having to rely on beating young boys to go through.
It's not just relying on this manager get us over. We're relying on coaching staff that is from the era that I want to avoid. It's called the dinosaur era, like the prehistorics. Like put Mike Phelan in the prehistoric era with Neil Warnock and Tony Pulis and Mick McCarthy and Roy Hodgson. At least Roy Hodgson had the brain to get out. But we don't have elite standards as both on board level and on the dugout. And we don't have elite standards on the playing field either, by the way. We don't have elite. We used to have the best training ground in the country. We don't anymore. It's now buggered. So I look at it and I think it just shows that we've got no direction from top to bottom, and we're run like a business by a bunch of wankers that are more interested in taking dividends than actually making their own business succeed. Because that's the funniest newsflash ever. Win more trophies, make more money, but the Glazers are apparently successful businessmen.
Before we move on from this bit, I have to ask this question because it is irrelevant. Harry Maguire, Doug. Harry Maguire, obviously a lot of hate, at least especially Roy Keane. He did particularly hide back his opinion. Do you think there's a bit overreaction to Harry Maguire's celebration, or do you think there's a legitimate? And two, obviously you look how you threw on Solskjaer under the bus after Manchester City. You think about him as a captain. Do you really think he should have the captaincy struck off? I think he's a disgraceful captain to Manchester United.
I do not understand how this man is Manchester United captain, but I suppose for 80 to 90 million, I suppose you've got to be culpable of something. But I mean that press conference that after the Liverpool game will just strike me as one of the moments of the season of how bad that interview was. Like I'm what was it? I'm
here. I'm
only doing this. I'm only doing this so I have to be here. You're the bloody captain. You are the man to lead a team like that. But I'm going to be honest with you, that celebration last night was absolutely ridiculous. If he thinks that's going to answer his critics, he is big time wrong.
George, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things with Maguire, and I think with pretty much all of the Manchester United's playing staff or playing squad that have been absolutely terrible for so many weeks. And he's going to obviously get the most amount of flack as captain, leading ultimately this disaster. The same way really as Ole Gunnar Solskjaer gets a lot of it because he's the manager. Ultimately, obviously, all of them need to have a big sort of large word with themselves. But he's going to have to back up his ideas and improve. And I can't really see that.
Apologies to interrupt you, George. But Doug, you have some feedback coming from your mic.
No, it's fine. He sorted it.
You unplugged your headset. No, that's because I've muted his mic because of the echo. But yeah, you have some echo coming back from your thing, Doug.
But as I said, he's always going to take that amount of flack. I think he's going to. I think eventually, obviously, he's probably going to look to try and turn it around. It's a big blow for us as well. Obviously, that Rafa Varane, who's clearly our best centre back, has now gone for a long time. Obviously, with the injury, again, he's a player. I think that's another thing we should probably have talked about, is the fact that another issue with Manchester United is in the fitness department as well, because we have all these players that keep coming back and then picking up injuries or coming back too soon. It's happened so many times over the past few years. You've had it obviously with Scott McTominay, who's been rushed back into playing. You've had it with Paul Pogba, who's been rushed back into playing and injured. You've had it with Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire, with pretty much every player that has had that at some time. So there's something remiss in terms of this fitness department. And another thing I would say is I feel like with Harry Maguire as well, he's another one that's been rushed back and has been overplayed over the past year or so. I think he's probably there was some stat, I think, at the end of last season that he was the most played player in the entire world in terms of minutes or and stuff like that. So, and he's obviously, as we know, he's not the fittest lad either. So I'm not quite sure why he's been played that many minutes, other than the fact that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is obsessed with him. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, one of his main issues has been that he totally cannot rotate. Maguire's a bit of a victim of that, but he's always going to get, as I said, the biggest spotlight, one of the biggest spotlights anyway, because of the fact he's captain. But there's been so many players, in fact, that this season have been terrible. And ultimately, even though I'm a big critic of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I've got to say these players should have been doing better as well, if I'm being fair. And Maguire's definitely among that. And in terms of his celebration, that's pointless against a team of ultimately of what we might describe as farmers in Albania. So needs to improve his performances for Manchester United before we can start doing those sort of impressions.
All right, so that pretty much brings the end to the podcast. But before I do want to move away from football. I want to ask you some questions. These are the top 10 most asked questions. They're not football related, so So I really want to hear you guys' opinion on this. Unfortunately, Reece is not here. Hopefully, maybe I'll make an appearance. So first of all, does pineapple deserve to be on pizza?
No.
No. George, what do you think?
I don't mind, actually. It depends. So to clarify, what I'd say on that is that it depends how hungry I am. I think if I'm very hungry, I can eat anything, and that includes pineapple on pizza. So,
Reece, what do you think? Pineapple on pizza?
People that eat pineapple on pizzas belong in prison. That's all I'm saying.
Right, sorry, George, you're going to prison. Nice knowing you. Netflix or YouTube?
Netflix.
Netflix.
No, I'd say YouTube. Although actually, to be fair, that's incredibly difficult. But I'd probably say YouTube overall, because I feel like with YouTube, I've always got something I want to watch. Whereas with Netflix, sometimes the choice can be pretty crap.
Home games or away days?
Away days.
Away days.
Away days.
George? Away days. What is the worst performance you've ever seen from your football team live?
Rangers versus Celtic at Ibrox, losing 6-0.
Hibernian 7, Livingston 0, Easter Road in 2005.
The other is Man United versus Man City, 2-0 last week, in Liverpool 5-0 not too long ago.
Yeah, those ones for me as well. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to swear.
You're going to try and keep. You're going to try and keep it PG. What is the most memorable football memory you will forever cherish?
For me, it's my first ever football game. I went with my mum. My dad, and my brother. We went to Scotland versus Sweden, and international friendly 2003. Freezing cold, -8 degrees at Hampden Park, and I was literally sitting under my mum's woolly jacket and a Scotland scarf. We lost that day, 1-0, but it was just the fact that a week later, Man United would then go and win. Man United, a following week, would then go and win the league, and Rangers would complete the domestic treble. But it's the memory that stands out for me because it was the first proper day out, like football, with my mum and my dad that I'll never forget.
That's very touching. George? Or sorry, go ahead, Doug. Sorry, you go ahead.
Yeah, it's got to be the CIS Cup final. Hibs 0, Livingston 2.
2004.
2004. 38,000 Hibs fans, 9,000 Livingston fans. Everyone, the odds were against Livingston, and we managed to, win 2-0. And to see Hampden Park completely empty of 38,000 Hibs fans was a joy to watch.
I was there that day. I was there that day.
No way, were you?
My local, remember?
Oh, of course, yeah.
So yeah, we got tickets. We got tickets. So
oh Jesus, I might have actually met you without knowing.
Maybe who knows? But yeah, I was there with my dad. So
George, what about you? Most cherishable memory of a football?
For me, it's probably just a personal one of playing and scoring for my school. The first goal I scored for my school, I was really happy at that point, and that's probably I was I was very small. I was a very young child at that point, and that's probably, I think when you're a young kid, you always want to play football, and that was, for me, I think that's what players always. I'm never on that level, but that's what players talk about, isn't it? The fact that they can never replace the joy of playing, and that's exactly the same. There is nothing better than that, and yes, obviously scoring my first goal for my school was incredible. I still remember it even now, and yeah.
Nice. I remember my first game I scored, then got sent off.
That sounds like Reece. So my final two questions. The first one being is, in terms of like a food combo that is very popular, or maybe that's probably, what food combo do you think should definitely not go together? Like for me personally, it's gravy and cheese. I think on the chip, I think that should not be a thing. Right, Reece, what do you think?
Did you say gravy and cheese? Or gravy and chips? It
should not be a combo. It's horrible. It's disgusting. Not for me. Not a chance.
For me,
gravy, cheese and chips.
For me, a combo. I think Doug might agree with me on this one, but Scottish people have a vicinity to put things in batter. For me, one combo that should not occur is a deep fried Mars bar. But the other one is, and I'm probably going to get stick for this, but I honestly don't care. I believe gravy and chips don't belong together.
All right, fair enough.
I'm probably going to get assassinated for this, but I don't agree. I believe gravy should be on mashed potatoes, roast potatoes, or with a roast dinner. It should not be on chips. Chips is for like brown sauce or ketchup, not gravy.
I don't really. It's not really anything that I don't dislike. So I'm just going to give a couple of things, shout outs to things. Obviously, the first time I had cheese and chips was incredible. Cheese and chips are always incredible together. But also, I had a delicacy which, to be honest with you, I haven't had for quite a few years, which I used to have at school, which was a Kit Kat with a jacket potato, and those two go together absolutely lovely. So if you haven't tried that before, then you should do.
Oh my god! What, a Kit Kat and a jacket potato? Oh my god! I have a habit of putting tomato ketchup on macaroni cheese. I don't know if anybody's done that, but I,
My
I
brother does that. Oh,
like like a lot of people have said to me that macaroni cheese and tomato ketchup don't go, but I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. Another interesting combo that I don't actually think goes very well is carrots and tomato ketchup, because I've seen people actually put like tomato ketchup near carrots, and it's vile, absolutely vile.
I have that people disagree with is garlic mayo and chips, but that's like generally one of my more like favorite combos in the whole wide world. Anyway, so my final question is: if you right now could choose to be a football coach, go back to your playing days, or be a board of director, which one are you gonna pick? For me, I would be a football coach. It's definitely my life dream to be able to coach a football team at any level, if it's youth level or somehow at senior level. George, what about you? You're back still on mute.
You still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Your mic was on mute before.
For me, obviously, it would be to be a player, a professional player for me. Just for the reasons I've sort of just stipulated, is that I think that's what all those players, no matter when they do go to management, commentating, or however far they go in football, they all miss playing so much, and you particularly see it in the way that they just. Certain players as well, for example, obviously Ronaldinho, for example, has got incredibly emotional about the fact that he doesn't play anymore, and you can just see how much they love the game, and that's what I would have loved to have played the game, obviously professionally. So it's got to be that for me.
Reece, what about you? I can see you. I can see you want to be a coach, learning, taking over from.
I take it. Your question is the choice between footballer, manager, and all that.
Yeah.
For me, I would have to say the same. Football player. I've lived it and breathed it. I had to stop playing football because my back. So like my back issues started before Neymar became famous, but like. I got done to me what happened to Neymar at the World Cup in 2014. I had the exact same thing, except that I didn't get paralysed, but I was forced to stop playing football. So I can only play it with friends. I can't play at a top level anymore. So for me, it would have to be go back to playing. For me, it'd be playing again, make it a pro level, and then get into management, and then do it from there. I would love to do that. For me, it'd be footballer, manager, then a director role. I would love to be on the other like the very top side, just see how things are run from that perspective, because you never see what happens behind the scenes, and I think that's something important. But if you could offer anything to me, it would definitely be a pro footballer, considering what I lost, and I absolutely love football to death and just playing football. So yeah, it would be a player.
Doug, obviously, I like to see you as like the big friendly giant, but I can see being a type of football player just going around kicking the legs off players, and absolutely gashing through them. But would you see yourself as a player, maybe a coach on the sidelines? What were you?
Well, people actually think I used to be a defender. I was actually a goalkeeper. So I used to be a goalkeeper when I played in my youth. So I would love to be playing again, but just unfortunately, I've kind of grown away from playing football, because obviously, like I've got a job. I've obviously moved into my own place now, so it's probably going to get harder and harder for me to play football. But yeah, I'd love to be a player again. I'd actually like to be a manager as well, because I think it would be very, very interesting, indeed, to get your C badge, and then obviously B, and then obviously A. But I suppose that's why you've got games like Football Manager to to have a good go at.
Well, I think we can all. I actually wonder if Josh will ask us if we were a manager, what like dream teams we would want to manage, or fucking what systems. But we all know Josh won't do that because his dream's Glenavon, so he won't ask us these questions.
Glenavon lost again today to Lauren. That's 12 games in, 10 points, 2 wins all season. It's painful. It's painful, and some of the goals that we conceded today were just really.
for the record, Matt. For the record, for me, it would 100%. I would love to manage Man United, but I think outside the box, I would. For me, it's AC Milan. Outside the box, it'd be like Rangers. Like that's a local perspective, and that'd be great for the family because my family are all Rangers fans. But when I aspire, I look at football in terms of matters most. It would be Man United and Milan.
I downloaded a new Football Manager today, so
I need to get it. We should all do like a tournament thing, like against each other.
No, George will get relegated.
So you'll get sacked. George can get relegated, but you'd be the first one sacked.
And that does bring me into this beautiful Saturday night channel. Obviously, no Premier League. It's something that just kept everybody entertained. So I'll just leave you all to have a final little message to what you say what the hell you want. I really don't care. George, what do I say? Besides your obviously last time your wise word was all out. Anything else, maybe a bit away from all out?
So for me, if I couldn't, obviously thinking out the box, instead of if it wasn't Manchester United, it would be managing Bayern Munich. I think obviously at Bayern Munich I'd do very well, especially with all those talented people within the board and all those professionals. I think everything would be incredibly efficient, and I'd absolutely love it. But yeah, to everyone who's watching this back, have a very safe week or so, and obviously I think we're going to be back on Doug's channel very shortly, obviously for more podcasts. And that's quite funny from Yeti Boy, but yeah, thank you very much for having me, Josh, as always, and take care, everyone.
Yeah, boy, I could arrange so that I'll message you on Twitter, and maybe you can follow. Reece, any words of wisdom from yourself?
Words of wisdom from me. If you were my manager, I would be in free fall. In all fairness, for me, simply put, we're still in times where, yes, you can get double vaccinated, but that doesn't mean you're immune. Stay safe, stay healthy, and for the people out there that need to hear this, if you're a cunt, fuck off.
Fair enough. At least someone says it. And Doug, last words of wisdom too.
I'm not afraid to say it. That's the difference. I'm not afraid to say it.
I could be wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, you're close, or you have on YouTube. If I'm not mistaken. I don't keep up to Twitter as much anymore, so I could be completely wrong.
8 away from 1.5, so very, very close indeed. Just speaking obviously about Monday, you might have to start the show without me. I'm actually working till 6, so there's no guarantees I'll be back for 7 p.m. So just
I'm in the office as well, mate. I'm in the office as well, so.
Oh.
I'll be back for it. Don't worry, I'll be back.
Yeah, but no. Thank you very much for having me, and yeah, just obviously stay safe. We obviously live in uncertain times as well. But obviously, if anyone is feeling down, and obviously myself, Josh, Reece, or George, or even Nathan, we're always here to get, speak to you guys. Don't suffer alone, I think is the message there.
Except when Cardiff's losing, best not interrupt them.
That's very true. Obviously, they did have a manager appointment. Nathan will be coming on my channel at some point next week to speak about all of that. So keep it on Twitter if anybody's interested in this.
What are you playing FM on? What are you playing FM on?
We'll talk about the Twitter chat. I have multiple.
We should do. We can do it as like a stream thing, like once a week or something.
I can work. I can get that together. So everyone, thank you very much for watching the channel. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. There'll be more content coming over these next couple of weeks. This is the start of hopefully things getting a bit back to normal on this channel. And us four. Doug will be late. I'll be there. Reece will be causing by him, and George will still be banging his head off the wall thinking about all the guns. So sure, we'll be back on the World of Fun podcast Monday night 7 p.m. on Doug's channel. And until then, enjoy your weekend. And yeah, don't do anything Reece would do. That's my best advice to you all.
Which is...
I'm not holding back for anyone. I've been holding up forever, waiting. surrender.